He confronted 100 monsters to save the twins. Their mother's cry of gratitude broke his heart. The planet of Aurelia was unlike any other in the galaxy. It glowed softly at night, its forests shimmering with bioluminescent plants that gave a calm, magical light to the surroundings. The villagers lived in small dome-shaped homes made of crystal-like materials that refracted the soft glow into gentle rainbows. Among them, humans and aliens coexisted peacefully, farming, trading, and exploring the strange beauty of their world. Elias Grant had chosen Aurelia as his home years ago, after leaving a life of interstellar missions and galactic adventures behind. He was a tall human with a calm demeanor and eyes that carried the weight of many experiences. Though he had traveled across dozens of star systems, he had found something here that he had never found anywhere else: a sense of quiet, of belonging, and a small community that valued peace over conquest. One morning, as the twin suns of Aurelia rose in soft golden arcs, Elias was walking along the village path, checking the nets he had set up to gather glowing fruits for the market. The air was fresh, carrying the scents of flowering plants and the distant melody of birds or creatures resembling them. He was enjoying the serenity when he heard hurried footsteps approaching. Turning, he saw Leora, a tall, slender alien woman with luminous skin and gentle eyes, running toward him. She carried her twins, Milo and Myra, close to her chest. Elias immediately sensed something was wrong. Leora's expression was one of panic, and the twins clung to her tightly, their eyes wide with fear. "Captain Grant," Leora's voice trembled, "please, you must help us. The twins, they are in danger." Elias quickly guided them to a shaded spot beneath a large crystal tree. "Calm down," he said gently. "Tell me everything from the beginning. What happened?" Leora took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. "It's the creatures, the 100 creatures that live in the northern forest. They don't usually come near the village, but something has disturbed them. They've surrounded the twins' home, and I can't reach them. I tried, but they are too many. Please, Elias, you are the only one who can help them." Elias' mind raced. He had heard of the creatures before. They were massive, curious beings with soft, translucent skin, multiple eyes, and long limbs. They were not naturally aggressive, but they were powerful and could unintentionally harm small beings, especially young children. This was not a battle of violence. It was a challenge of skill, patience, and understanding. "I'll help," Elias said firmly. "Tell me where they are, and I will go with the twins' safety as my only goal." Leora nodded, relief washing over her face. She gave Elias a rough map of the forest and indicated the twins' hiding place. The northern forest was dense, filled with towering plants, winding paths, and creatures of all shapes and sizes. Even the sunlight had difficulty piercing the thick canopy. Elias knew this journey would require more than courage. It would require careful thought, resourcefulness, and trust. He returned to his home to gather supplies. He picked up glowing lanterns to light the way and energy nets that could guide creatures without causing them harm. He also took a small device that could mimic sounds and vibrations, a tool he often used to communicate with strange wildlife. As he packed, he thought about the twins and their mother, about the responsibility he carried. He knew he could not fail. The villagers, curious about the commotion, began to gather. Some offered advice, others brought extra supplies, but Elias thanked them and told them to remain safe. "This is my responsibility," he said. "The creatures are not enemies, they are just confused. I must approach them with care." As he stepped toward the forest edge, he felt the weight of the day settle in. The sunlight danced through the bioluminescent leaves, casting shifting patterns on the ground. Every shadow seemed to move as if alive. Elias took a deep breath and entered the forest, the soft rustle of leaves under his feet the only sound accompanying him. The first creatures appeared sooner than he expected. They were massive, with translucent bodies that glowed faintly. Their eyes were like pools of liquid light, watching his every movement. Elias paused, remembering Leora's warning. These creatures were not inherently dangerous. They were curious, inquisitive, and sometimes reckless. If approached wrongly, they could harm the twins without meaning to. Elias slowly extended a glowing fruit toward the nearest creature. It paused, tilting its many eyes toward him. Carefully, he mimicked the gentle vibrations that the creatures used to communicate. Slowly the creature moved forward and took the fruit, nibbling delicately. A small smile crossed Elias' face. If he could calm even one, he could calm more. Hours passed as he moved deeper into the forest. Each step brought new challenges, creatures blocking narrow paths, unfamiliar sounds echoing through the trees, and shadows that seemed alive. Yet Elias remained patient. He spoke softly, guided gently, and used the glowing fruits and his device to lead the creatures away from dangerous areas. It was a slow process, but his calm presence began to influence them. The forest was alive with activity. Some creatures watched from above, hanging from branches, while others moved on the ground, their translucent forms blending with the glowing plants. Elias noticed the subtle differences between them. Some were playful, some cautious, some shy. By observing them, he began to understand their patterns, their behaviors, and the ways to lead them without causing harm. As the sun began to set, painting the forest in shades of gold and violet, Elias finally saw a small clearing where the twins were hiding. Milo and Myra crouched behind a large crystal shrub, their eyes wide and shining in the dim light. They looked frightened, but there was a spark of hope as they saw him approach. "Hello, Milo. Hello, Myra," Elias said softly. "I'm here to help you. We will leave safely together." The twins nodded, their trust in him evident despite the fear in their eyes. Elias instructed them on a simple plan. They would use the glowing plants scattered throughout the clearing to create a trail, guiding the creatures' curiosity away from them. As they moved, Elias spoke to the creatures in soft hums and vibrations, ensuring their path remained safe. Step by step, they advanced. The creatures, curious as always, followed the glowing trail, leaving the twins' hiding spot unguarded. Elias stayed close, guiding every movement, whispering encouragement and making sure no one stepped into danger. It was slow and meticulous work. Several times, a creature would pause, turning in unexpected directions, its eyes fixed on the humans. But Elias' calm presence, his understanding of their nature, and his clever use of light and sound allowed them to redirect each one gently. By the time the forest canopy began to thin, Elias had guided the twins to the outer edge of the woods. The creatures, still curious but content with the glowing fruit trail, had not been harmed. Milo and Myra were safe. Elias felt a rush of relief, but he knew the journey wasn't complete. They still had to return to Leora. As they emerged from the forest, the first stars began to twinkle in the Aurelian sky. The twins ran ahead, their laughter echoing softly, and Elias followed, smiling. Soon, they reached Leora, who ran toward them, tears streaming down her luminous cheeks. She scooped her children into her arms, holding them close, and whispered words of gratitude that Elias could barely comprehend. "You have saved them," she said, her voice shaking. "You have saved my children without harming anyone. My heart is full of thanks." Elias nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest he had not expected. He realized then that true courage was not in fighting or overpowering. It was in understanding, patience, and protecting those who could not protect themselves. The mother's cry of gratitude broke something in him, not with sadness, but with the profound weight of humanity's ability to care across worlds, to connect across species. That night, as the village settled under the twin moons of Aurelia, Elias watched the twins sleep, safe in their mother's arms. The creatures he had guided returned to their forest homes, curious and unafraid. The forest seemed to hum with a quiet harmony, a balance between life and respect, curiosity and care. Elias sat beneath a glowing tree, thinking about the day's events. He realized that the adventure had changed him as much as it had protected the twins. He had faced not danger but misunderstanding. He had overcome not violence but fear. And in doing so, he had discovered something simple yet profound. That courage was often quiet, patient, and kind, and that the heart's strength could touch lives more than any weapon ever could. The forest whispered around him, the creatures settling in for the night, the glowing plants swaying gently. In that moment, Elias felt a deep peace. He had confronted the unknown, faced 100 curious monsters, and emerged not only victorious, but wiser, gentler, and more connected to the world around him. And as he looked at the sleeping twins and their grateful mother, he knew that this was the kind of heroism worth pursuing, one that brought life, safety, and hope to those who needed it most. The morning after Elias had guided the twins safely from the forest, the village was alive with chatter. Word of his bravery had spread quickly, not as a tale of combat or danger, but as a story of cleverness, courage, and compassion. Villagers gathered near the edge of the northern forest, some bringing food for the children, others offering Elias tools or advice. Yet Elias remained calm, quietly observing the creatures that peeked from the forest's edge. The twins, Milo and Myra, had grown curious overnight. Their fear had faded into wonder, and they followed Elias closely as he returned to the northern forest. Today was not about rescuing them again. It was about understanding the creatures and helping them live alongside the village safely. Leora had asked Elias to help the creatures learn the boundaries of the village so they could coexist without harm. Elias agreed. He knew that understanding the unknown was often as important as facing it. The forest greeted them with the same eerie beauty as the day before. The translucent leaves glowed softly, and the air carried a faint hum of life. Creatures moved among the trees, watching Elias and the twins carefully. Elias knelt and whispered to the twins, "Remember what we did yesterday. We do not need to frighten them. We only guide them gently." Milo nodded eagerly, holding a small glowing lantern. Myra mirrored him, carrying a basket of luminous fruits. They had learned quickly how to attract the creatures' attention in a safe way. Elias smiled, proud of their courage and intelligence. These small beings had the hearts of explorers, and he was honored to teach them. As they advanced deeper into the forest, Elias noticed patterns among the creatures. Some were playful and curious, weaving among the branches or following the glowing fruits. Others were cautious, standing still and observing, their many eyes reflecting the lantern light. Elias began using a simple system. Playful creatures were encouraged to explore safe areas, while cautious ones were guided with gentle hums and vibrations that mirrored their natural communication. Hours passed, and Elias, Milo, and Myra moved carefully, ensuring no creature wandered near the village paths. Elias marveled at the intelligence of the creatures. They were not dangerous, they were simply misunderstood. Their size, their curiosity, and their unusual forms had made them frightening to humans and aliens alike. But with patience, communication, and respect, Elias could guide them without causing harm. The twins began to experiment with leading creatures themselves. Milo used his lantern to create soft-moving patterns, which intrigued a small group of curious creatures. Myra offered glowing fruits to another group, watching them nibble delicately. Elias guided them, giving advice quietly, and ensuring that every action remained gentle and thoughtful. At midday, they reached a wide clearing where several creatures had gathered near a crystal stream. The water sparkled under the light of the twin suns, and the creatures dipped their limbs and heads in playful curiosity. Elias instructed the twins to place fruits along the stream, creating a trail that would lead the creatures away from the village entirely. "Remember," Elias said, "we do not push them, we guide them. Curiosity will lead them naturally if we are patient." The twins nodded, understanding. Slowly, the creatures followed the trail of luminous fruits, dipping and glancing at the glowing lights, exploring but not venturing toward the village. Elias watched with satisfaction. Every step was a victory, not through force but through cleverness and care. As the sun began its descent, Elias led the twins to a high ridge overlooking the forest. From here, they could see the creatures dispersing, following the safe paths they had created. The view was breathtaking. The forest shimmered like a sea of light, creatures moving like gentle waves, and the village glowed softly in the distance. "Look at that," Myra whispered, awe in her voice. "They're happy." "Yes," Elias replied, "and they are safe. And we have helped them understand that the village is not a threat." Milo pointed to a particularly large creature, its translucent body glowing brighter than the others. "That one is following us," he said. "Why?" Elias knelt beside the twins, observing the creature carefully. "It is curious," he explained. "It remembers how we guided it yesterday. It knows we are not dangerous. In time, it will understand the boundaries and learn to live peacefully." The creature tilted its many eyes toward them, moving closer but staying cautious. Elias reached into his pocket and took out a small glowing orb. He placed it gently on the ground, letting its soft light pulse like a heartbeat. The creature approached slowly, sniffing and nudging the orb with its long, delicate limbs. After a moment it backed away, satisfied, and returned to the stream. The twins laughed softly, delighted by the creature's gentle interaction. Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced the forest not with weapons or anger, but with patience, understanding, and respect. And the results were far more beautiful than he could have imagined. As the day turned into evening, Elias noticed the creatures beginning to settle. They gathered near safe areas, glowing faintly as they rested. He guided the twins in placing soft, luminescent markers along paths to indicate boundaries. The creatures would naturally avoid the village, following the patterns without realizing they were being guided. The twins' mother, Leora, arrived at the ridge just as the last light of the suns faded. She looked at Elias and the children with eyes full of gratitude and wonder. "You have done it again," she said, her voice trembling. "You have protected my children and you have helped them, all without hurting anyone." Elias nodded, brushing a hand over his hair. "We only needed to understand them. Fear comes from misunderstanding. Once you understand, fear disappears." Leora's tears shone in the dim light, reflecting the forest's glow. "You have shown me the meaning of courage," she whispered. "It is not fighting. It is patience, care, and the strength to guide without harm. You are a hero in every sense." Elias felt his heart swell. He had faced challenges across the galaxy, encountered dangers that many could not imagine, but this moment, the quiet triumph of guiding creatures safely, protecting children, and earning the gratitude of a mother, was more profound than any battle he had ever fought. The twins, tired but happy, leaned on Elias as they walked back toward the village. Along the way, they continued to guide creatures gently, learning the importance of empathy, patience, and clever problem-solving. Elias watched them, proud of how quickly they understood the lessons of the forest. In their laughter and curiosity, he saw hope for the future, not just for the village, but for the way humans and aliens could coexist across worlds. When they reached the village, the creatures had returned to their parts of the forest, curious but calm, and the paths were clear. Villagers came forward to meet them, amazed by the twins' courage and Elias' guidance. Instead of fear or worry, there was admiration, respect, and a growing sense of harmony. Leora hugged her children tightly, then looked at Elias. "You have given us something we cannot repay. You have not only saved my children, but you have taught us that understanding is more powerful than force. My heart, it is yours in gratitude." Elias smiled softly. He had spent his life traveling across galaxies, facing dangers and mysteries, but nothing had touched him like this. The quiet bond of trust, the gentle courage of children, and the peaceful coexistence with creatures larger and stranger than himself. It was a lesson he would carry forever. That night, under the twin moons of Aurelia, Elias sat near the village's edge, looking at the forest. The creatures moved among the trees, glowing faintly like living stars, and the village glimmered softly in the distance. Milo and Myra slept peacefully beside their mother, safe and unharmed. Elias felt a quiet satisfaction. He had confronted the unknown, guided 100 creatures, and ensured the safety of innocent lives, all without violence, only with patience, intelligence, and empathy. As he watched the forest, Elias realized that courage was not measured by strength or weapons, but by the heart's capacity to understand and protect. True heroism, he thought, was not in fighting monsters, but in teaching, guiding, and safeguarding life wherever it flourished. The forest hummed gently around him, alive and harmonious. In its glow, he saw the reflection of everything he had worked for: the trust of children, the relief of a mother, and the peaceful coexistence of species across a world that could have been dangerous, but was instead full of life and wonder. Elias knew that tomorrow, and every day after, the forest would continue to thrive because someone had chosen to act with care and understanding. And as the stars blinked faintly in the sky above, he whispered quietly to the forest, to the creatures, and to the twins' sleeping forms. We are all stronger when we understand each other. Fear is only the beginning of learning. Elias closed his eyes, letting the soft light of the forest wash over him, feeling deeply connected to the lives he had protected and the world he had chosen to call home. He had faced 100 creatures, but more importantly, he had faced the challenge of understanding. And in that, he had found a new kind of victory, one that was gentle, wise, and everlasting. The next morning, the forest of Aurelia seemed calmer than before. The sun filtered softly through the bioluminescent leaves, casting patterns of gold and green on the forest floor. Birds and strange creatures moved gently, as if aware of the humans and alien family who had begun to understand their world. Elias woke early, the faint hum of the forest a gentle comfort. Today, he knew, they had a more delicate task ahead, helping the twins guide the creatures back towards safe areas permanently and teaching them to live alongside the village without fear. Milo and Myra were already awake, their eyes bright with curiosity and energy. They had learned quickly that the forest was alive, not dangerous, and that understanding could replace fear. Elias smiled at their enthusiasm. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Yes," they both said, hopping eagerly beside him. Elias led them back to the northern forest, carrying supplies of glowing fruits, soft lanterns, and small reflective orbs that the creatures found fascinating. The twins carried baskets of fruit and lanterns carefully, practicing the gentle movements Elias had taught them. The forest welcomed them with a soft breeze, and even the creatures seemed to recognize the humans' presence, watching from a distance without approaching too closely. As they moved deeper into the trees, Elias explained the plan. "Today, we will do more than guide them temporarily. We will help them learn the boundaries. We will show them where they can explore safely and where the village begins. Remember, we do this with patience. We never push or frighten them." The twins nodded, absorbing every word. Milo stepped forward, holding a glowing lantern in one hand and a small piece of fruit in the other. "I think they will follow this," he said confidently, placing the fruit near a curious creature that peered out from the branches. The creature lowered its head, sniffed, and then cautiously moved toward the glowing fruit. Elias watched carefully, ready to assist if needed, but the creature seemed to understand immediately. Slowly, more creatures joined, their curiosity leading them naturally along the path created by the twins. Elias felt a deep satisfaction. Each step was a small lesson in understanding, patience, and trust. Hours passed as they guided the creatures. Elias observed the twins closely, noting how quickly they adapted to the forest's rhythm. They learned to anticipate the creatures' movements, to notice subtle changes in behavior, and to respond with care. Myra discovered that reflecting light from her lanterns onto nearby leaves would capture the attention of shy creatures without startling them. Milo noticed that humming softly in a rhythm similar to the creatures, natural sounds encouraged playful creatures to follow the safe paths. Together, they created a system. Luminous fruit led some creatures, soft reflections of light guided others, and gentle vibrations communicated directions to the shy or cautious. The forest began to feel alive in a new way, a place where humans, aliens, and creatures coexisted peacefully, each respecting the other's space. Midday arrived, and the sun shone brighter, casting streaks of light through the canopy. Elias and the twins reached a wide clearing where a small stream ran through the center. The creatures had gathered around, curious about the flowing water and the glowing fruits that marked safe paths. Elias knelt beside the twins, whispering instructions. Place the fruits along the water. Let the creatures follow them naturally. Do not rush. Let them learn. The twins moved carefully, arranging the fruits and lighting lanterns. Slowly, the creatures began to follow the paths, dipping their translucent limbs into the water, sniffing the fruit, and exploring the gentle markers Elias had set. Elias felt a quiet pride in the twins. Their small hands guided the creatures with care, showing a remarkable understanding of empathy and communication. As the afternoon progressed, a particularly large creature approached the twins. It was taller than Elias, with long, flexible limbs and eyes that glimmered like liquid light. The twins froze for a moment, but Elias stayed calm. He stepped forward and placed a glowing fruit on the ground. The creature sniffed, hesitated, and then gently touched the fruit with a delicate limb. Slowly, it moved along the safe path they had set. The twins giggled softly. "It's like it's learning from us," Myra whispered. "Yes," Elias replied. "They are. Curiosity teaches better than fear ever could." Hours turned into evening, and the forest began to glow in soft hues as the twin moons rose. The creatures had dispersed along the marked paths, avoiding the village naturally. The twins had successfully guided them without any force, any fright, or any harm. Elias could see the relief in their faces. They had learned that being gentle, clever, and patient could overcome obstacles that seemed impossible. Leora arrived at the edge of the forest as the last light faded. She carried a small basket of fresh fruits and glowing herbs as a gift for Elias and the twins. "I cannot believe what you have done," she said softly, tears shining in her eyes. "You have guided these creatures without fear, without harm. You have taught my children lessons I could never teach." Elias shook his head gently. "We only needed to understand them. Courage is not about force. It is about patience, care, and understanding." Leora held the twins close. "You have shown us what true bravery is," she whispered. "I cannot thank you enough." The twins ran forward, hugging Elias tightly. "We did it," Milo exclaimed. "We helped them." "Yes," Elias said, smiling. "And you learned something far more important. You learned how to be kind, clever, and patient. That is bravery." That night the village celebrated quietly. There were no fireworks, no loud parties, just laughter, glowing lights, and the soft hum of the forest. The creatures moved among the trees, curious but calm. The twins slept soundly in their mother's arms, dreaming of forests and glowing fruits and the creatures they had guided together. Elias sat under a glowing tree, watching the forest and the creatures. He thought about how small acts of care could create harmony in even the most unpredictable environments. The day had been exhausting, yet fulfilling. He had faced hundreds of creatures, not with weapons or fear, but with understanding, guidance, and compassion. And in doing so, he had strengthened the bond between humans, aliens, and the creatures of Aurelia. As he reflected, a small group of villagers approached, bringing lanterns and soft foods for the travelers. "You have done more than protect the twins," one of them said. "You have shown us that we can live in harmony with the forest. We can respect its creatures without fear." Elias nodded. "That is the lesson," he said quietly. "When you understand, you can live peacefully. Fear disappears and curiosity leads to friendship." The twins joined the group, excitedly explaining the paths they had created and how the creatures had followed the glowing fruits. Milo demonstrated how the soft hums had guided the shy creatures, while Myra showed how reflections of lantern light had attracted the playful ones. The villagers listened, fascinated, and began planning small adjustments to their paths and gardens to maintain safety and harmony. Night fell completely, and the twin moons illuminated the forest with a gentle silver light. Elias walked to the edge of the forest with the twins, observing the creatures settling into safe areas. The glow of the luminous plants mixed with the creatures' soft lights, creating a magical scene of harmony and coexistence. "You see," Elias said to the twins, "this is what happens when you act with care. You do not need strength or weapons. You only need patience, cleverness, and a kind heart." The twins nodded, understanding fully. They had learned lessons that would stay with them for a lifetime. That courage came in many forms, that understanding was a powerful tool, and that every living being deserved respect. As the night deepened, Leora joined them, holding a small glowing orb in her hands. "This is for you, Elias," she said softly. "It is a symbol of our gratitude and of the bond you have created between us and the creatures. It glows with harmony, just as your actions have." Elias took the orb, feeling a warm glow spread through his chest. He realized that heroism was not about defeating monsters or earning glory. It was about protecting life, guiding the curious, and teaching the next generation how to act with wisdom and care. The forest hummed gently, a song of life, curiosity, and peace. Elias watched the creatures as they moved gently along their paths, and he knew that the lessons of the day had created a lasting change. The twins had learned to guide, to lead with kindness, and to respect all forms of life. Leora had learned that understanding could replace fear, and Elias had discovered once again that the simplest, most patient actions often held the greatest power. As the village settled under the twin moons, Elias walked slowly back to his home, carrying the glowing orb and a quiet sense of accomplishment. The twins' laughter echoed behind him, mingling with the soft sounds of the forest. He smiled, knowing that tomorrow would bring more lessons, more gentle guidance, and more opportunities to show that understanding and patience were the true marks of bravery. And as he looked at the glowing forest stretching into the distance, he whispered softly to himself, to the creatures, and to the world around him. "This is the way forward. Curiosity, care, and courage, this is what makes us strong." The forest shimmered in reply, 1,000 glowing eyes reflecting trust and calm, as if acknowledging the quiet human who had faced 100 creatures not with weapons, but with a heart full of understanding. The morning sunlight on Aurelia was soft and golden, filling the village with warmth. Birds chirped and insects hummed, but there was a calm excitement in the air. Today was important. Elias knew that guiding the creatures safely was only part of the journey. The twins, Milo and Myra, needed to see the full impact of their actions, and their mother, Leora, needed to fully understand that peace and safety had been restored. Elias felt the weight of responsibility, not as a burden but as a privilege. The twins woke with bright eyes, eager to continue their lessons. Milo bounced on his bed, holding a small lantern he had decorated with glowing leaves, while Myra gently gathered the luminous fruits they would carry to the forest. "Today we make sure everyone knows where to go," Milo said, his voice filled with determination. "No one gets lost and no one is scared." Elias smiled. "Exactly," he said. "We will guide, teach, and protect just like we did before, but today we make it permanent. The creatures will learn their paths, and the forest and village will be safe together." Leora approached quietly, her glowing skin reflecting the sunlight. She had brought breakfast for the humans and aliens working together, placing baskets of soft fruits, warm breads, and sweet nectars on a large stone table outside their home. The twins hugged her briefly before running to Elia's. "Let's go," Myra said, her small hand gripping his. They entered the northern forest, moving slowly and carefully. The creatures watched from the trees, curious but calm. Elias explained to the twins that patience was still key. "We cannot hurry them," he said. "We are guiding, not forcing. Curiosity and trust will lead them where they need to go." As they moved deeper into the forest, Elias noticed subtle changes. The creatures, once hesitant, now seemed to recognize their presence. A large translucent creature followed them at a distance, observing the twins' every move. Smaller creatures darted playfully between branches, occasionally pausing to look at the glowing fruits or the lantern lights. Elias felt a sense of accomplishment. Their method was working. The twins took turns placing fruits and lanterns along the paths, learning which areas drew the creatures naturally and which needed gentle guidance. Elias watched them closely, impressed by their intuition and care. Myra realized that reflecting the sunlight with her lanterns onto crystal-like leaves created patterns the creatures could follow easily. Milo found that softly tapping on certain stones created vibrations that reassured the creatures and encouraged them to move along the path safely. Hours passed, but neither Elias nor the twins noticed. They were fully absorbed in the rhythm of the forest, moving as a team, communicating quietly with each other and with the creatures. The forest seemed to respond to their efforts, a living, breathing system of life that flowed around them. At midday, they reached a wide clearing where a gentle stream ran, its waters sparkling with light from the glowing plants around it. Several creatures had gathered near the stream, some drinking, others simply exploring. Elias guided the twins to place fruits and lanterns along the edges of the stream, creating a natural trail that led away from the village, but kept the creatures within safe areas. A particularly large creature approached the twins cautiously. Its translucent body shimmered with the sunlight, and its many eyes reflected curiosity rather than fear. Milo and Myra froze for a moment, unsure what to do, but Elias knelt beside them. "Remember what we've learned," he said softly. "We guide them gently. They are not dangerous, they are learning." Slowly, Myra extended her lantern and reflected its light onto a nearby tree. The creature tilted its head, intrigued, and then followed the light along the safe path. Milo placed a glowing fruit at the creature's feet. It sniffed the fruit and then moved carefully along the trail they had set. The twins laughed quietly, delighted. "You see," Elias whispered, "they trust you, they are learning from you." The creatures followed the trail, exploring the paths, crossing the stream safely, and avoiding areas near the village. Each step was a lesson in patience, understanding, and trust. The twins learned that guiding others required observation, empathy, and careful action. They were no longer just children. They were teachers, guiding creatures with respect and care. By late afternoon, Elias led the twins to the edge of the forest where the village could be seen clearly. The creatures had settled into safe areas, moving freely but avoiding human homes and farms. Leora arrived at the clearing, her eyes wide with wonder. She had watched from a distance, anxious and full of hope, and now she saw the results of Elias and the twins' efforts. "You have done it," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You have guided them safely. My children are safe, the village is safe, and none of them were harmed." Elias smiled, feeling the warmth of her gratitude. "We did it together," he said. "Not with force or fear, but with patience, understanding, and care. That is how true courage works." Leora stepped forward and embraced Elias, her tears warm against his hands. "You have my heart in gratitude," she said. "I cannot express how much this means to me. You have shown us all that understanding is stronger than fear, and kindness is stronger than worry." The twins joined the embrace, laughing softly. "We did it too," Myra said. "We helped them, Mama." "Yes," Leora replied, smiling. "And you have learned something even more important. Courage is not about being the strongest. It is about doing the right thing, even when it is hard. You have guided, protected, and taught. That is true bravery. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft pinks and purples, the forest glowed gently. The creatures moved gracefully along the paths the twins had created, exploring without fear, following the patterns of fruit and light, and avoiding the village naturally. The twins watched in awe, realizing that their actions had made a lasting difference. Elias knelt beside them, his eyes reflecting the forest's glow. "This is the result of care," he said. "When you act with understanding and patience, you can change the world around you. You have done that today." The twins hugged him, and Elias felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced hundreds of creatures not through force, but through wisdom, empathy, and guidance. And now, the village, the forest, and the creatures existed in harmony, a delicate balance that would endure because of patience and care. Leora gathered her children and turned to Elias. "You have shown us that humanity is capable of greatness not in battle but in kindness," she said. "You have changed our lives, and you have given us hope that we can live in peace with all living beings." Elias nodded, humbled by her words. He realized that this was the true meaning of heroism. It was not about defeating monsters, gaining fame, or earning power. It was about protecting life, teaching understanding, and creating harmony where there had been fear. As night fell completely, the twin moons rose above Aurelia, casting soft silver light on the forest and village. Elias, the twins, and Leora stood together at the edge of the clearing, watching the creatures settle into their safe areas. The glow of the luminous plants mixed with the creatures' soft lights, creating a scene of peaceful coexistence. The village celebrated quietly, not with loud sounds or fireworks, but with laughter, soft music, and shared stories of the day's success. The twins shared their experiences with other children, teaching them how to move gently through the forest, how to understand the creatures, and how to guide without force. Elias observed them with pride. These children were learning lessons that would shape the future of their village and their world. Later, as the twins and their mother rested in their home, Elias sat beneath a glowing tree near the edge of the forest. He reflected on the day's events, thinking about how simple acts of care and understanding could create lasting harmony. He had faced hundreds of creatures, and yet no one had been harmed. Instead, trust, curiosity, and gentle guidance had built a bond between humans, aliens, and creatures. He realized that the greatest victories were often quiet, unseen, and measured not by strength, but by the positive impact on others. The mother's gratitude, the twins' courage, and the creatures' trust were far more powerful than any weapon or tool. They were proof that understanding and kindness could overcome fear, confusion, and even chaos. As the forest hummed softly in the night, Elias whispered to the creatures, to the twins, and to the world around him. "We are stronger when we understand each other. Patience, care, and courage. This is how we change the world." The creatures responded in their own way, glowing softly, moving gently along their paths and settling peacefully into the forest. Milo and Myra slept soundly, their small hands wrapped around each other, dreaming of forests, lanterns, and the creatures they had guided. Leora watched over them, her heart full of gratitude and relief, knowing that her children were safe, and the world around them had become better because of a human who understood the true meaning of courage. Elias looked at the stars twinkling faintly above Aurelia and felt a deep sense of contentment. He had faced 100 creatures, guided them safely, and taught children how to act with wisdom and care. The village, the forest, and its creatures were in harmony, and he knew that the lessons of patience, understanding, and kindness would continue to echo through generations. And as the twin moons bathed the forest in silver light, Elias realized that sometimes the most extraordinary acts of bravery were quiet, gentle, and guided by a heart that truly cared for others. The gratitude of a mother, The laughter of children and the trust of 100 creatures had created a moment of pure triumph, a moment that Elias would carry with him forever. The next morning, the village of Aurelia was alive with the soft hum of everyday life. The twin suns rose slowly, casting golden light across the crystal domes of the village. Birds and small creatures chirped and fluttered, and the forest beyond shimmered faintly, alive with the glow of bioluminescent plants. Elias walked through the village with a calm smile, observing the people around him. Villagers went about their routines, tending to gardens, trading goods, and greeting one another. Yet there was a subtle difference in the air today, a sense of harmony and pride, a quiet confidence that the village had grown stronger and safer. The twins, Milo and Myra, ran alongside Elias, their laughter ringing like bells through the morning air. They carried small lanterns, decorated with glowing leaves and crystals, and tiny baskets of luminous fruit. They had learned so much about patience, understanding, and guidance, and now they were eager to apply their knowledge again, though the creatures of the forest were calm and predictable after the careful lessons of the previous days. "Do you think the creatures will still follow the paths we made?" Milo asked, glancing at Elias with curious eyes. "Yes," Elias replied. "They have learned that these paths are safe. They know where they can explore without worrying, and every day they will remember. The forest and the village can exist together because you both taught them respect and care." Myra nodded seriously. "It feels good, helping them." Elias smiled. "That's because it is. Helping others, understanding them, guiding them, that is true courage. And today, you will see the results of your work fully." They approached the northern forest, where the creatures had made their homes among the glowing plants and crystal trees. Already, the creatures were moving along the paths the twins had helped guide them. Some explored the streams, dipping delicate limbs into the sparkling water. Others rested on branches or along the edges of the clearings, watching curiously but remaining safe. It was a beautiful, harmonious scene, showing how life could coexist without fear or harm. Elias knelt beside the twins, whispering instructions. "Observe carefully. Watch how they move, how they respond to the paths. See how your guidance has changed everything." The twins' eyes widened as they noticed the creatures moving confidently and calmly. Milo pointed to a large, translucent creature, the same one that had followed them so cautiously before. "Look," he whispered. "It's not scared anymore, it's exploring like we showed it." "Yes," Elias said softly. "You taught it to trust. That is the most powerful gift you can give." Hours passed as they moved carefully through the forest, observing the creatures' movements. Elias showed the twins how to refine the paths, adjusting small obstacles or placing lanterns to make navigation easier. Milo and Myra worked together, their small hands steady and careful, understanding how small changes could make life safer for the creatures. Leora watched nearby, her heart full of pride and gratitude. She had witnessed her children learning lessons that would shape them forever, lessons of patience, empathy, and courage. By midday, Elias led the twins to a wide clearing near the stream. This was the place where the creatures had once been the most restless, the area that had caused fear and confusion before they were guided carefully. Now, the creatures moved confidently, following paths that kept them safe while allowing them to explore freely. Elias smiled, proud of the harmony they had created. "You see," he said, kneeling beside the twins, "all of this is because of patience, observation, and care. You didn't need strength or weapons. You only needed understanding." Myra's eyes sparkled. "It feels magical," she whispered, "like we made a new world." Elias chuckled softly. "In a way, you did. You created harmony where there was confusion. You gave life a chance to be peaceful. That is magic anyone can achieve with the right heart." Leora stepped forward, her expression warm and proud. "You have given us more than safety," she said. "You have given my children lessons that will stay with them forever. You have shown us all that understanding, kindness, and patience are stronger than fear. Elias nodded. That is true courage, he said, and today the forest and the village are proof of it. The afternoon passed quietly. Elias and the twins continued to adjust small details, placing lanterns and luminous fruits along paths to ensure the creatures remained guided and confident. They watched the creatures interact with one another, seeing curiosity, playfulness, and even a sense of friendship emerge among them. It was a living lesson in coexistence, showing how all beings could thrive when treated with care and respect. As the twin suns began to set, Elias led the twins and Leora back toward the village. The creatures, confident in the safe paths, returned to their areas in the forest, moving calmly and freely. The twins walked ahead, chatting excitedly about what they had learned, and Leora followed with a warm smile. When they reached the villagers were waiting, eager to see the results of Elias and the twins' work. Children ran forward, asking questions about the creatures, while adults observed the creatures moving in the forest, their curiosity and calm behavior clear. The villagers were amazed at the harmony created between the forest and the village. One elder approached Elias, his eyes thoughtful. "I have seen many things in my life," he said, "but never have I seen humans and aliens work with creatures so carefully, so gently, and so successfully. You have taught us all something extraordinary today." Elias smiled. Understanding, patience, and care can achieve what fear and force cannot. The creatures have learned and the village has learned. Harmony is possible when we choose it. The twins ran forward, showing the villagers the small lanterns and fruits they had used to guide the creatures. Milo demonstrated how light could attract curiosity, while Myra explained how careful placement of fruits could guide movement. The villagers watched in fascination, realizing that these simple actions had created a lasting impact. Leora hugged Elias, tears shining in her eyes. "You have given us safety, lessons, and hope," she said. "I cannot thank you enough. You have not only protected my children, but you have changed our village forever." Elias shook his head humbly. "It is not me alone, it is all of us working together. And it is your children who learned the most important lessons today, lessons that will guide this village for years to come." The sun fully set, and the twin moons rose, casting silver light across the village and forest. The creatures glowed softly in their natural luminescence, moving confidently along the paths the twins had guided them to. The village was calm, peaceful, and safe. Elias, Milo, Myra, and Leora stood together, watching the harmony they had created. "Do you think it will last?" Myra asked softly. Elias knelt beside her. "Yes," he said, "because everyone has learned the lessons. Patience, understanding, and care will continue to guide them. The creatures will remember and the village will continue to respect their home. Harmony lasts when it is built on trust." Milo looked around at the glowing creatures and smiled. "We really did it. We helped them all." "Yes," Elias replied, "and you learned that courage is not about fighting. It is about protecting, guiding, and caring. That is the kind of heroism that changes the world." As the night deepened, the village settled under the twin moons. Lights glowed softly from homes, lanterns flickered along paths, and the forest hummed quietly, alive and peaceful. Elias walked slowly to a glowing tree at the edge of the village, reflecting on the journey. He had faced hundreds of creatures, guided them safely, and taught children how to act with wisdom and care. The forest, the village, and its creatures were in harmony, and he knew that the lessons of patience, understanding, and kindness would continue to echo through generations. Leora placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes soft with gratitude. "You have shown us that humans can do extraordinary things, not through power but through heart," she said. "My children are safe and our world is better because of you." Elias nodded. "That is all anyone can hope to do, to make the world better even in small ways. And today we made a big difference together." The twins ran ahead, their laughter mixing with the hum of the forest. They had learned lessons that would stay with them forever: the power of patience, the importance of understanding, and the courage to guide without fear. The creatures moved confidently in their safe areas, exploring and interacting without worry. The village thrived, peaceful and secure. Elias looked at the stars beginning to twinkle in the Aurelian sky. He realized that the greatest victories were quiet, lasting, and built on trust and care. The gratitude of a mother, the laughter of children, and the trust of 100 creatures had created a moment of true triumph, one that would live on in the village and forest for generations. And as he watched the twin moons reflect on the glowing forest, Elias whispered softly to himself, "Patience, understanding, and care, this is the greatest strength, and this is the legacy we leave." The forest shimmered faintly in reply, as if acknowledging the human who had guided hundreds of creatures, taught children the meaning of courage, and created harmony without a single act of harm. Elias knew that Aurelia would continue to flourish, and that the lessons of today would echo in hearts and minds far beyond the village, showing that true heroism was gentle, wise, and everlasting.